Hi everyone, and welcome back to the course. I hope everyone's doing well. In the previous lessons, we looked at the language that you need to know to be able to answer IELTS Writing Part 1 for describing graphs, charts and tables. In this lesson, we're going to use that knowledge and apply it to answering an IELTS Task 1 question. Today we're going to look at some different stages of writing this answer. First of all, we're going to look at reading and understanding the question. Then, we're going to try and understand and interpret our graphs. We will look at the information in our graphs in order to write general trends and specific trends. Then, when we've got our sentences for our general and specific trends, we will look at how to put these into paragraphs. We will look at writing the introduction to our essay and writing the main paragraphs. So, reading and understanding the question. Let's take a look at an IELTS question. In this question, you have two sentences describing two different graphs. The first sentence is for the first graph, and the second sentence, surprise, surprise, is for the second graph. The chart below shows the amount of money spent per week on fast foods in Britain. The graph shows the trends in consumption of fast foods. Trends in consumption, what does that mean? Well, it's basically describing how much of these fast foods British people eat on average every week. Okay, now let's look a little bit more closely at each of the graphs. So here's our first graph in more detail. Now the first thing you look at is the y-axis, which is on the left here. What does the y-axis tell us? Well, if you read the label, you can see it says pence per person per week, so it tells us how much money we spend every week. Then we look on the right-hand side at the key, or another word for key is legend, that tells us what's in the graph, and that's here. And we can see hamburgers, that's the green bar, fish and chips, which is purple, and pizza, which orange, yellow, or gold, whatever you prefer. So, next we look at the x-axis, which is here at the bottom, and it tells us in this particular graph who is spending this money. For us, it's high income earners, average income earners, so average income earners in the UK would be maybe £17,000 a year, and low income earners, obviously below that figure. So what can we see in the graph? Well, we can see the three different bars for each income group at different levels. And from this graph we can clearly see that high income earners are spending the most amount of money. So that's around 80 pence per week per person. Average income earners, if you add up the bars, it's around 60. And for low income earners, it's around 40 pence per person per week. And then there are some differences in individual trends, which we'll talk about later. So, what about the line graph now? Same again, y-axis. This tells us how many grams of each fast food British people eat every week. The legend, or the key, exactly the same thing again, hamburgers, fish and chips and pizza. And the x-axis, you can see, is measuring how much we eat over time. And it's 2 decades here, from 1970 until 1990. If you look at the details of the graph, you can see that one of the lines is going down and the other two lines are going up. The general trend for pizza is downward, because it starts at 300 and ends at less than 300 in 1990. The other two graphs start below, let's say around 200, 150, and then they increase. So the general trend for fish and chips and hamburgers is upwards. Now, let's take a look at how we can pick out general trends and describe them. So, let's look at the high income group first of all.